What's up, dudes? I'm Brody. I'm gonna tell you about the time I was possessed by a 15th century warlock. Pretty gnarly, right? But before I get into all that, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm a DJ. I play all sorts of parties, clubs, raves, bar mitzvahs. Electronic music is my passion, and my favorite kind is trance music. I love losing myself to a sick beat. And I also really dig making my own sick beats to share with other people too. So dope. I used to go out to raves and clubs all the time. That's how I met my girlfriend Ashley. We met at a club I was DJing at. She loves clubbing and goes out all the time. And just like me, she really digs trance music. She went up to me that night and told me my beats were sick. And I told her I made them myself. And she was like, "No way." And I was like, "Way." And she was like, "Dope." She dug the fact that I was a DJ. But that was a while ago. Lately, it's a different story. She's been complaining a lot that I never go out clubbing with her anymore. I mean, now that I'm going to school, I can only work on my music on nights and weekends, so I don't really have time to hit the clubs anymore. Not unless I'm DJing. So even though Ashley used to think it was the bomb that I was the DJ, now she says it bums her out, because if I'm behind the DJ booth, it means I don't get a chance to dance with her. She says all I do now is sit in my room making music, and that I'm no fun anymore. And I feel bad about that. But as much as I love dancing, what I love even more is mixing sick beats and being a DJ. I just want things with Ashley to be chill, you know? I also wish things were more chill with my dad. He's a super serious dude. He's a professor of archaeology, and he's really into his work. He's always telling me stuff like, get a haircut, sit up straight, get a real job. He never dug my beats, no matter how sick they were. He thinks being a DJ is a waste of time. He wanted me to go back to school, so he pulled some strings at the university, and now I'm in the history program there. I don't even like history, but my dad wants me to be into it since he's so into it. My dad even brings his work home. Like, literally. He brings home old artifacts from his archaeology digs. One time, he brought home this wooden box. He told me that locked inside of it was a talisman that belonged to a 15th century heretic from the Byzantine Empire. Legend has it he was a warlock with magical powers who called himself the Great Santino, and that he made a bargain with the devil to live forever. His wish was granted, but it would take all of the Great Santino's powers to make him immortal, and he was banished to spend eternity in this box. Sounds like a total bummer. Anyway, my dad told me never to open the box. So, obviously, I needed to know what was in that box. Later that night, after my dad went to bed, I jimmied it open, and inside was this cool medallion thing. And when I put it on, something happened. It felt like a rush of energy entering my body. I felt like I wasn't me anymore. Because I wasn't. I was the Great Santino, and I have returned. I somehow wandered onto campus the next day. It was like everything was new. There were all these people who waved hi at me, but I didn't really know them because I wasn't really me. So I guess when I say I really mean the Great Santino. As I was walking, I bumped into my history professor. Literally, we bumped into each other. And I remember saying, "Insolent fool!" Even though this Santino dude had taken over my mind and my body, I still remember everything. It was like some part of me was still there, but I was just a passenger along for the ride. It was weird. My professor asked me if I'd finished my paper on Rasputin and the fall of the Romanov dynasty. I said, "Rasputin's antics were child's play compared to the mystical influence of the Great Santino." Later, I wandered into the dining hall. I was starving. I started eating everything in sight. Apparently, this Santino dude loved to eat, especially pizza. I guess everyone likes pizza, though, even 15th century warlocks. That's when Ashley found me. She looked upset. She just went right up to me and gave me an ultimatum. She was like, "Go clubbing with me tonight, or lose me forever." I asked her what clubbing was, She told me to stop messing around and said I had to come because there was going to be sick trance music there tonight. I guess Santino just heard the word trance and was like immediately intrigued. He demanded to know who claimed to have this ability to entrance everyone.
Who dares challenge the awesome power of the great Santino?
So she took me to the club. There was a super long line to get in. And since I've been a DJ, it's been a while since I've had to wait to get in line to get into a club. But Santino had never been in a club. I don't think he even had any concept of what a line was. As soon as we got into the club, Ashley pointed out the DJ, saying that's the guy spinning trance tonight. So I went up to him and yelled in his face,
"Charlatan!"
Then Ashley started dancing with me. With Santino, who noticed that everyone was lost in the music. I was impressed. It was such a sick beat, the great Santino even got lost in it. Later, I went to the bar for a drink and demanded a tankard of ale. And after the club, we went out for late night pizza. I went up to the counter and said,
"Fetch me a slice, peasant."
Ashley was all, "What's gotten into you?" And I said,
The question is not what, but who.
And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And that's when I told her who I really was.
Fool, grovel before the great Santino.
She thought it sounded like a magician. I told her I was a 15th century warlock who had traded all my power for the ability to live forever by inhabiting different bodies throughout the ages, and that one day I would reclaim my powers. The next morning I slept in, and when I finally got up and came downstairs, Dad was furious that I missed school. He started lecturing me about taking responsibility and not wasting my life. He tried to level with me. "Look, I lived the bohemian life when I was young too, but you need to get your act together." And then I was like,
"The Bohemians were insolent fools."
And my dad was like, "Why are you talking like that?" I was all,
"Fetch my breakfast, serving wench."
I can't believe I called my dad a serving wench. Well, technically, it wasn't me. It was Santino, who, by the way, would not shut up because I kept yelling more stuff at my dad like,
"Infidel!"
and
"Dare you defy the great Santino?"
And that's when my dad realized what was happening. He saw that I was wearing Santino's medallion, and he freaked out. Dad threw the rest of his coffee in my face, blinding me just long enough to snatch the medallion off my neck. As soon as he did, I felt like a rush of energy leaving my body, and I was back to being me. I've never been happier to see my dad. He gave me a big hug, and I told him something I've been wanting to say for a long time. I didn't want to study history anymore. It just wasn't my thing, dude. I wanted to be a DJ and make sick beats. My dad took the medallion and locked it back up in the box. I told him I was sorry for not listening to him. He sat me down and told me a story about Grandpa, his father. Turns out Grandpa was an artist, and Dad always felt like he disappointed his father by not following in his footsteps. But he finally got up the courage to tell Grandpa he wanted to be an archaeologist. And it took a while, but Grandpa eventually understood. He had told my dad, "Be who you are, not who the world wants you to be." So my dad told me that he understood if I didn't want to study history. And if I was going to be an artist, maybe I'd be the one to follow in Grandpa's footsteps. Grandpa sounded dope, but I told my dad I was going to do my own thing. So I stayed home from school that day. I was looking forward to working on my music because I wasn't able to up until now. You know, having my mind and body inhabited by another soul and everything. But the whole experience left me so exhausted, I didn't have any energy to make sick beats. And that's when Ashley came over. She told me she wanted to go clubbing again. I told her I needed to rest so I could work on my beats. I said, "Hey, don't get me wrong. I love the club, but I need to go to bed at a reasonable hour, you know?" She told me I was starting to sound like an old man. I was like, "Bro, you have no idea. I don't like letting Ashley down, but I don't like letting myself down either." She got upset and stormed off, and when she did, I felt lighter. Even lighter than when the spirit of the great Santino had left me. And that's when I got a second wind, and I ended up staying up all night making sick beats. Turns out, when I get to do what I really love, it's like I have endless energy, or as our boy the great Santino would call it, awesome power. I thought some more about what Grandpa had told my dad. If I become only what the world wants me to be, I'm letting everyone else drive my life, and I'll only ever be a passenger. From that day on, I never wanted to be anyone other than me, ever again. Do you ever feel the pressure to be someone you're not? Have you ever been possessed by the immortal spirit of a 15th century warlock? Tell us about it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. Remember, when you share our stories, you're sharing wisdom.